back to part 3. So sorry about that.
For a movie 3 hours long, this is perfect. This is perfect.
So I think this one will be the shortest though, because we're
just wrapping everything up.
So they basically have a funeral, and I think it's more like kind of just a service for people who couldn't be there for the actual funeral.
It's the most gutting part of the whole movie, in my opinion.
We get everyone that...
I mean, I don't know if you saw it. I was actually crying during that part.
I teared up a little bit. I think I kind of held myself together.
And I'm not even the biggest Tony Stark fan. I freely admit to that.
And so they take the proof that Tony Stark has a heart thing, and they...
Didn't Pepper get that in Iron Man 1?
Yeah, that's the first arc reactor. That was the prototype arc reactor. And so he wanted it thrown away, but she decided to make, because like proof that Tony Stark has a heart, basically. And so they sent it away.
They put it on a reef in the middle of the river.
And we get to see pretty much everybody. We see Aunt May, we see Peter, we see...
The kid from Iron Man 3.
Which neither of us knew who that was until,
we were sitting there like, who the hell is this kid?
I watched a review of it, and someone was like, that's the kid from Iron Man...
I sent you that article, too, when I saw it.
The kid from Iron Man 3, which I know... I
don't think any of us expected that.
I kind of... Well, to be fair, I forget that it's been like a couple of years since he's been like a kid.
Carol's there, and Nick Fury's in the back. There on the back.
Because not only that, he probably feels responsible, because this, like... He's the one who made Tony become an Avenger. I mean, not forced, but like, in a way, this is kind of his fault. And also kind of sets up the events of Homecoming, because him and Peter are together in that. To be fair, I think part of the reason why I didn't get as sad is because I kind of knew it was coming, because I knew...
Well, and I had it spoiled, and I mean, it still gutted me.
It's very well
such
done.
A well done scene.
Especially the scene where Morgan and Happy are sitting down, and she's like, my dad like to get hamburgers, and he's like, I'm gonna get you all the hamburgers you will ever want. And I'm like, whew. And so basically we also get a scene where Hulk, whose arm is in a cast, talking with I forget who he's talking with. I think he's talking to Clint, and he's like, I'm gonna miss Natasha. We get a scene where I think Scarlet Witch and Clint... I think...
It's Clint and Scarlet Witch.
And she, talks about how, like, what do we do to move on? And Clint's like, we just have to live because...
I wish they were here to see this. And Wanda's like, they know.
No. And so we get to the part where basically Hulk and Cap are going to return the Time Stones and Mjolnir back to where they're supposed to be.
And so Cap goes by himself. He says bye to Bucky and Sam.
And then he's like, it's only going to be a minute.
So they return the stones, and then it's revealed that, they get ready to bring Cap back.
And it doesn't
He overshoots his target.
Yeah.
By, I think it was 40 years or something.
And so Sam and Hulk are like, you got to get him back. And then Bucky's just like, Sam. And they notice an old man sitting at the
and he's got the shield beside him.
They don't see that.
It's in a packaging.
It's a packaging. And so basically Sam goes up to this old man, and it's Cap, but he's
old, and he's got a wedding band on.
And basically he's like, I just, I
decided to get some of that life Tony was always trying to tell me about.
And Sam's just like, how was it? It was amazing. And basically, I love Sam because you can clearly tell he's trying. He's happy for him, but he's also like.
And we get this scene where it's basically Cap promised Peggy a dance and
Captain America. That's the very end.
It's the very end, but it never happens. But in this, at the very very end, it shows them dancing.
Then basically they got married and they had a life together. Which, was
the perfect ending.
Yeah, and not only that, it makes up for that scene in Winter Soldier where he's talking to Peggy and she has a cough and basically she has dementia. And so all of a sudden, all of that time they spent together was erased. And poor Cap just basically redoes the line when he first met Peggy. Like you never see him reuniting with her. They're still talking with each other like they've been friends for a while. And it basically he has to play out again that scene where he finds Peggy again, and she's all upset that she's so old, and Cap does I still had promised my favorite girl a dance, and I'm like, why did you rip my heart out, Winter Soldier? I didn't need to see that.
But yeah, that was the perfect ending.
But I do love Sam, and Sam's just like, I'm gonna miss Captain America, and Steve, bless his heart, is just like, about that, and he opens the package, and I don't know if I'm assuming Black Panther fixed the shield. We don't see it, but I'm assuming... If we're going to go by
comic book, Cap probably has a couple, but that's by comic book logic.
That shield's vibranium. And to be fair, and like I said, him and Black Panther are bros. And he has vibranium.
Probably what happened.
He fixed it. And he gives the shield to Sam, and he's just like, how does it feel? He's like, I don't know if it will fit. And he's like, it will. And I do love Sam because he's just like, you want to tell me about that life you had? And Steve's just like, no, not really. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, he did it because he didn't want them to take his time. I'm like, no. That's just Steve's way of saying, sorry, old friend, but this is kind of for me.
Yeah, and it's like, there were a lot of people on Tumblr and on Reddit that actually criticized that Cap did that. Like, oh, it was a selfish thing to do. Like,
no,
out of anybody, out of the main group of the Avengers, Cap is one of the people that has sacrificed so much over his life.
He wants to have something back.
He deserved that. Like, I will honestly fight anyone that says he didn't deserve that.
And not to be that guy, I'm sure Cap, after we didn't see the credits, was like, if you ever do need me, you know where I went. I'm willing to come back from that time if you need me and go back.
Yeah.
Like, that was just his way of being allowed to be happy.
Which he deserves. I'm sorry.
Fair,
I'll find anybody that says he doesn't deserve that.
And again, Chris Evans is also leaving. This is the perfect way to let Cap be happy. And we still have Captain America. Sam will be Captain America.
And there's people that are obviously gonna complain, saying like, oh, Bucky deserves it more. But I'm like, Bucky is more of his own man, and he spent so long in Cap's shadow that he doesn't need to be Captain America because he's become his own person.
Well, not only that, like this Bucky hasn't done enough to earn that.
Plus, he's got his own emotional baggage and everything.
Yeah,
he needs to unpack.
And not only that, I'm pretty sure he's going back to Wakanda because he was living in Wakanda after the events of Civil War. But
I just want to know, does Rocket get the arm like he wanted?
I wish. Oh, and we also find out that Thor left Valkyrie in charge of what's left of Asgard because he's going into space with the Guardians, most likely to find Loki.
Loki and Gamora, because Gamora's not in.
Because clearly Gamora did not go back in time. I'm sorry, she clearly went somewhere else.
Yeah, well, and it's mentioned, like, obviously because the Gamora in this new timeline is not the old one, so she didn't really know who Peter was. Yeah. When Peter had this, saw her again, he was obviously like, is it really you?
And then she kicks him in the balls.
Yeah, she kicks him in the balls. And, and then Nebula comes over and she's like...
And Gamora's like, really?
Him? Well, I mean, it was between him or a talking tree.
Which I'm like, you wanted to date Groot?
I am Groot.
I mean, oh my God. So yeah, and then the credits roll, and apparently...
There is no end credit scene.
Well, no, there is no end credit scene, but apparently you can hear the sound of Tony forging the Iron Man armor at the end. This is how it began, this is how it shall end. And
which we didn't stay for the credits because it was really late. We had to get home.
And to be fair, we knew there wasn't an action.
I was kind of interested to hear if there was this sound because I had heard that, and there were some theories.
I looked it up, and apparently it's the sound of Tony forging the Iron Man. Because
there was the theory that you and I thought that maybe it was Galactus from Fantastic Four. Because now that they have Fantastic Four, they're obviously going to reboot that and
Galactus has a spaceship, so it could have been his spaceship.
It could have been, but I mean, until we know what they're doing with Fantastic Four, it's just speculation.
Yeah, and it's all in the air. So yeah, overall, that was the movie. Like I said, the bigger problems I have with this movie is mostly just clearly that how they wanted to get to Tony's death.
Yeah, because I'm sorry. I mean, if Tony's death hadn't happened, it would have been Carol that had used the gauntlet
and she would have survived.
Yeah, she would have been able to survive it.
Like,
I feel like they did that just because they wanted to give Tony's story an ending. But at the same time, I'm kind of like what we mentioned in our Captain Marvel review, where the movie kind of felt like purely a lead into Endgame rather than its own kind of individual thing. I almost felt like that kind of was like kind of took from the character of Captain Marvel a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense at all. But
yeah. I do think it was.
I mean, I don't have a problem with the way it played out.
To be fair, I get why. Tony,
and
it was an amazing farewell. It
was, and I don't want to take that away from the character. I don't want to take that away from Robert Downey Jr. or any fans. We both kind of thought, okay, the whole thing with Thanos taking the stone out, that was purely to get to that moment when it really didn't make all that much sense.
And to be fair, it was mostly just because, like, you had Carol, and I felt like she was gonna do more. And
she's
once again,
not really in this movie that much.
Like, they basically sideline her because they don't want. I guess they didn't want to make it too easy. I don't know.
Well, and at the same time, they had so many characters in this that it's gonna be impossible to get everybody to have screen time.
I really do feel like they, like, much like the Infinity War, they wanted to focus on the first Avengers team because this is their last ride together. Like,
I mean, Natasha and Scarlet obviously have the Black Widow movie, which Given what happens, it has to be a prequel because
it has
unless
to be a
they
prequel.
do some weird other stuff, which I don't think they will.
Yeah, I doubt it. It has to be. And to be fair, I feel like they had to do it this way because they wanted to give Peter some more gravitas now that he's pretty much all of what's left of Tony's legacy, kind of. Which, to be fair, that scene where he reunites with Ned, I actually really did like, just because like it clearly is Peter just like, I'm glad to be home,
and it's kind of like a life goes on kind of thing.
And I like that because I think it shows that Peter, like, especially in Far From Home, like, Peter doesn't take the costume with him to Italy on their school field trip because he's like, I just want to be Peter for a little bit.
And yet May packs it for him. You almost forgot this.
Oh yeah, no. May's like, you might want it in case. And I almost want Peter to be like, Aunt May, it's going to be really hard explaining Spider-Man showing up. Like,
he's just a cosplayer.
Well, not only that, especially
he's a cosplayer.
Not only that, especially in the events of Homecoming, Spider-Man shows up during Peter going to the field trip in Washington, D.C. And don't get me wrong, I get, like, his friend's not figuring that one out, but, like, someone probably put it 2 and 2 together. Jay.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so, like I said, I think this was a really great send-off for the first Avengers, especially Cap and Tony. I think Tony's death was really inevitable because of the, like, just all of this fear of Tony dying, because there was a lot of times where Tony, like, was going to fail in those movies and he managed to come out of it.
It's kind of foreshadowed in the beginning that you bring that up, where he's like, ran out of tricks, but I was really kind of hoping I could pull one last one off.
No.
Which, that's a lot of foreshadowing, especially given the end, because he pulls off one last trick.
And he, like, it was hard for me because I was really mad about that when we left.
Because that man had a family.
That man had a family and he didn't deserve that. And the moment the daughter came out, I was like, "Oh, you're so dead, Tony."
It's like the trope of, if you're in a war movie, and you start bringing up family, you're getting killed. Before the movie is done, you are getting killed.
If you're in a horror movie and you're like, I can't wait to see my family again, you're dead. You're dead.
You're usually the first one to get killed.
Yeah, you're usually the first one. Either that or the religious zealot.
Or the black guy. I hate to be racist. That's a trope.
That is a trope.
That is an actual trope.
Like, I love, there's some movie where, like, it was a horror movie and this black dude's like, it's always the black dude that goes first. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I always bring this up in Jaws 3D. There's a black dude that's running the park, and he's the only black guy. Until the last act when the shark invades their base, and there's a black janitor, and he gets killed over him. And I'm like, and every time that happens, I always go, thank God I had that other black guy. Like, every time it gets me, and I'm like, like, that guy's only there to die so you don't kill the black guy that's actually important. That's horrible.
Yeah, overall, we missed a very important part of this.
Oh, yeah?
0 out of 10, Ant-Man does not crawl up Thanos' ass. I am so disappointed, and I am going to boycott this movie because of that. No, not really. I give it 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I'm easy to please, though, but I really enjoyed it. My only real complaints were just the thing with the gauntlet, which was kind of more a plot device to get it moved into where Tony could pass. I kind of felt like they didn't really use some characters like they could. Like, Wanda's barely in it, which, I mean, makes sense. Carol, they don't really use a lot of. And there's a couple other characters that they obviously could have done more with. But I think, given how long the movie already was and all the stuff they had to cover and all these other characters, it makes sense that some characters don't have as much. But at the same time, as a fan, I'm kind of like, I kind of wish there was. And how much you want to bet when the Blu-ray drops, we get deleted scenes? And it's probably going to satisfy some of that.
I imagine we're going to get like a 5-hour cut of this movie. I imagine we're gonna get a 5-hour cut.
I want 4 alternate endings. That's what I want.
Oh,
4 alternate endings.
No, we're not doing Return of the King. Oh,
4 alternate endings.
I actually was surprised we didn't get something like that, Return of the King, where we see like every single where like the movie ends like 7 times.
Yeah,
that's my biggest flaw with Return of the King. That movie ends like 7 times. I'm like, get on with it.
Spider-Man 3 ends twice.
Yeah, which I don't really get the second ending.
We need to do a video on just Spider-Man 3 at one point.
We could just do a vlog about the Raimi trilogy in general. I wouldn't mind.
I'd be down for that. Trilogy. I mean, the Raimi trilogy is my favorite. So, but getting back,
it pretty much is mine too. Well, except for Spider-Verse. But I'm gonna give it a 9. I mostly have complaints with just a small smattering of things here and there.
Mainly just plot
holes, or that the part where we get to Tony's death. Like, just because, like, you gave me an out movie. I don't appreciate that. I think it's a very solid film, and I also kind of give it a 9 just because you need to see...
You need to see everything else to get the full emotional
to get why we're
coming
here. Or at least see Infinity War and Captain Marvel. Overall, though, I do think it's a solid movie. I would probably say, like, with everything else, it's a 10. Without, it's probably a 9 or an 8, especially depending on if you really are a fan of the Marvel movies or if you're not. And I think overall, I think it was very, very good, and I feel like Captain Marvel and Shazam are going to be blown out of the water by this movie. That being said, I am looking forward to Homecoming when it comes out.
Endgame's already made $1.2 billion at this point. It's only been out for 5 days.
I know, and it's also...
6 at the moment of this, because it's actually past midnight, so 6 at this point.
And also, it's, I think, the Russo brothers' 3rd movie to hit $1 billion behind Infinity War and Civil War. Although I don't know why Civil War was, like, why that made over $1 billion.
Why is Civil War in the comics so popular?
I don't know. Because
we're
really
some of the rare people that don't like Civil War.
I mean, I don't mind the movie because at least the movie they have more reasons to fight.
That's what I mean. I'm talking about the comic.
To be fair, I thought about it. I know the reason why Civil War made $1 billion. Flip.
Oh, because
that was the movie they made right. That movie's actually apparently, like, the ending is had to be completely rewritten because of the fact that they put Spider-Man into that movie. Like, that movie had to go through major rewrites because they were like, we had to introduce him somewhere.
Yeah.
In fact, Spider-Man in the last fight of that is completely CGI.
Oh, I honestly,
they didn't have a suit. He's completely CGI in that. We don't get his official costume, like him in costume, until Homecoming.
I'm honestly not surprised by
that. But anyway, we've rambled for
3 parts now at this point. 3-hour movie, you get 3 parts. More bang for your buck. I want to say
we've talked for over an hour. I don't know if it's into
it's almost 12:30 and we got out at 10 o'clock. Not 10 o'clock, like 10:20. 10:20, 10:30.
I want to say I think we've talked longer than Into the Spider-Verse in that movie,
and we talked for that for
an hour and a half.
But I mean, there was a lot to cover with this movie.
There was a lot to cover and a lot to unpack. Overall, like I said, I think it's a good film, and I'm looking forward to what we'll see next. I figured maybe just because we're a little short, I'd maybe talk about what trailers we saw.
Oh yeah, sure. Godzilla, King of the Monsters was
which
one.
I think was just the original trailer, but it was.
It was because remember Riley, the friend who went with us, Riley, he's a coworker as well.
He's like, did you see the second trailer? And I